have the distinct honor and privilege of serving as Hillsboro's mayor. And I want to thank all the people today who helped make this possible. First of all, Majestic for the creation of this beautiful monument. I especially want to thank the members of the Hillsboro Historical Society, local historians Judy Goldmann, Dirk Knudsen, Gene Edwards, and Jenny Mapes for their efforts to honor and memorialize the history of the area. And I'd like to acknowledge them with a round of applause. I also want to thank the members and the descendants of the Nez Perce Tribe who are with us here today. Thank you very, very much for joining us. And this dedication will start off with a blessing from Nez Perce Tribal Elder Silas Whitman.
Good morning in my language. The distinct honor of being here on behalf of the Nez Perce Tribe and it's called the Circle of Elders. I chair the Circle of Elders, and we generally open all of our sessions with a prayer. And we're blessed to have a number of people that have different religious affiliations within the elder circle. That's kind of our, I guess you would say, hallmark of the tribe, that we recognize the fact that all religions, as long as they have the single purpose, with a single person, a single entity, the deity that we call a creator. And the blessings sometimes are done by our traditional people or by those that are Methodist denomination or Presbyterian. So while it's unfortunate that Dr. I want to call Charles Axel, calling him by his dad's name Horace, because Uncle Horace was the one that we depended upon to do all these things. And Charles, or Chucky, is our holy man. He's the one that does all of the activities now, and he's blessed with the ability of addressing everything that is of benefit to people that need to be recognized. As we always say in our blessings, I say, thank you for the time to do these things. We ask our grandfather if he will smile kindly and gently upon all those that are here, the descendants of the people that were here, that settled the area, the descendants of the people that make up the Nipuka, that make up those that represent the people that are here. All of you have a role to play what we have here. Grandfather, ask your blessing to continue on, so when we protect those that swim, those that fly, those that walk on four legs, those that crawl, and the two-legged people who came in last. We ask that we give us all the time to communicate. We ask Grandfather to give us the strength that we may be able to consider that we're all related in one way or another. Grandfather, we ask for blessing. We smile kindly and gently upon your people today. But we're the ones that are left over now to care for those things that you left for everyone here. Memories of everything that's here, the people that were here. That is the reason why we're here on behalf of the Meek descendants, is to honor and discuss the contributions that were made by those people. Grandfather asked that you give good thoughts to those people and think about the contributions that were made. Grandfather asked again that you smile kindly and gently upon those, so that you be fully understanding. And ask not that you be understood yourselves, but that you understand other people. We ask that blessing. We ask to give strength to each and every one of us, to all of us. Within that blessing and the strength of the people that think about that, the thoughts are the medicine that are necessary to allow the people's spirit over here to go on. That they smile upon us, that we think about that, they will come to you in your dreams. Dreams of the strength of our people. We ask that you have those dreams in a positive manner and think about them. And you return those thoughts that are kind and gentle to the Creator who's given us the strength to do that. So on behalf of all people here, I ask for your blessing, and I ask that you think strongly about those people that were here before us. All those people that settled the area, they were here for a purpose. Purpose is to preserve the memory and integrity of those things that were given to us, not take that for granted. That's what you ask the Creator, not take these things for granted that were given to us, that we protect them ourselves. Ask that strength, Grandfather, on this day. It's actually a beautiful day. You look at it, you consider the advantages that you've been given. Thank you, Grandfather, on behalf of everything in the Nez Perce Tribe and the people. Thank you.
Woo! The following statement was developed by an Indigenous community engagement group with representatives from 9 tribes for Washington County, and it was subsequently adopted by the City of Hillsboro. We want to acknowledge the people on whose land we live, the Atfalati and Kalapuuans, also known as the Tualatin Band of Kalapuuans, the first inhabitants of Washington County. We are grateful for the land that we are on. Signers of the Willamette Valley Treaty of 1855 were removed from their homelands to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. Today, their descendants are tribal members of Grand Ronde and Siletz tribes, carrying on the traditions and cultures of their ancestors. We acknowledge and express gratitude for the ancestors of this place and recognize that we are here because of the sacrifices forced upon them. In remembering these communities, we honor their legacy, their lives, and their continuation in our community. Please reflect on the role the government has played in the painful colonial history and reflect on the resilience and healing of the indigenous land and communities. We would like to invite everyone to collaborate and work together with the tribes to take care of the land and the water and the people who inhabit these spaces. With this acknowledgement, the City of Hillsboro also recognizes that words mean nothing without action behind them. And this is one step towards greater engagement with tribal nations and tribal communities. We will continue to build relationships and address issues affecting their well-being. We will ensure that Indigenous community members are front and center in our efforts to improve opportunities and outcomes for Indigenous families, communities, and businesses. They will be center in our efforts to provide equitable benefits of the city's services and development, infrastructure, and program investments. They will be center in our efforts to pursue recommendations that come from the Indigenous Community Engagement Group, and they will be set front and center in our efforts to elevate the lived experiences of Native Americans in Oregon. We honor the Native peoples in their ancestral homes, and recognize their continued contribution to all areas of community and family life, arts, and culture. And although the exact location of the Methodist Meeting House and burial ground now have been lost to time, they have not been lost to memory. And you know, it was interesting when I was a principal, and we would bring kids out here as we studied Oregon history, and we brought 4th graders out, and They worked with a company with sonar, with ground penetrating radar, and nobody was more anxious and excited to find evidence of the Methodist Meeting House than those kids from Tobias Elementary School. You know, unfortunately, we weren't, you know, but we do know that it was here, and so that is why we are gathered here. That's why this is located here, and this monument is dedicated to them. You know, all those indigenous who have been here, the Nez Perce, the children of Joseph and Virginia Meek, and the vital role that the Methodist Meeting House played in Oregon's history.
Hey, Judy.
What a pleasure to see you all turned out in this really Oregon weather. So thank you, thank you. I find that many of the things that I had made note of and wanted to say have already been said. So I will fill in what I do know about some of the folks that were early here. And this particular place was a crossroads. It was an animal path. It became a Native American persons who lived here, their path, and it was a crossroad. Whose phone is that? I don't know. It might be mine. I don't know. It's in the car. So, but here we are at the corner of Tualatin Pathway and the new, oh goodness, I had it written down here. It was at the corner of Tualatin Trails and the Silicon Forest Boulevard.
Yeah.
My family, that of Joseph L. and Virginia Meek, have made Washington County their home, many of us, since their arrival in 1840. And I want to acknowledge that several of my cousins have made their way here today. And if you care to hold up your hands, we are great grandchildren. Joe Meek spent 11 years in the mountains as a fur trapper. He trapped fur-bearing mammals that were then sold for their fur. When that fur trade began to wind down, they thought, yes, they were going to have to find some other means of living. And so they decided to come west. And there were several of the mountain men who came, and they were accompanied and supported by their wives, the women of the Rocky Mountains and Plains, who knew how to set up homes and survive in those temporary homes. Virginia of the Nez Perce. Virginia was the name that Joe Meek bestowed on his wife. Her two sisters, Kitty, who was Mrs. Robert Newell, and Catherine was the wife of Caleb Wilkins. Each of them settled in this area, although some of them only temporarily. Nearby was another Nez Perce woman who was Aunt Fanny Ebert, the wife of George Ebert. So Virginia had become interested in the news of the faith that was preached by the Protestant missionaries of the day, which may be the reason that close by this site of the Methodist Meeting House became the burial place of 5 of her departed children. You will see the markers now standing tall here behind you. They died of various things: childhood diseases, accident, exposure, and which gave them pneumonia, and other farm accidents, and it was also shortened their lives. It was used, the Methodist Meeting House was an important building because it was used by not only the circuit riding Methodist preachers, but it's used by other denominations for meetings, and housed in this, and it housed the first circuit court proceedings in the East Tualatin Plains. It saw the erection of a barricade in 1855, which was in anticipation of possible Indian threat from the east, which never came. The Constable House, Mr. Constable gave permission to use this piece of ground for the Methodist Meeting House. The Constables lived over here almost where the Hillsboro overpass is. And the house built by Lizzie Constable and her new husband John Shute is across the street here. It was not built until 1888. Joe Meek died in 1875 and was buried at the Old Scotch Church Cemetery to the west, along with Virginia, who died in 1900 at age 80. There are many other family members there. The site of the Methodist Meeting House was respected and preserved relatively untouched until 1988, at which time the owners had, at that time, had the fir trees logged off and farmed over the space. Efforts were made at that time to obtain a portion of the property, but that was not to be. I must thank and give much credit to the ad hoc committee who took up the cause, and more than 20 years ago, that of marking this place for history and in history. The Meek Plains historians have each brought special skills to the efforts that culminated in the reality of this recognition. The names of the earlier persons of interest, who were interested were my mother, Ruth Meek Gates, and Rain Carol Hay, Robert Benson, Ken Meyer Jordan, and John Riley the farmer, and Perry Stream the farmer, who saved the property to begin with. In more recent times, there were many, many other historians of Northwest history who helped this, including Kimberly Fitzgerald, Elizabeth O'Brien, Debbie Raver, Dirk Knudsen, Ginny Mapes, Gene Edwards, John Platt, and as many as 30 other people who encouraged us with history, research, and donated funds. I must also say that the City of Hillsboro and other state agencies have been very strong support, and the Majestic Realty Company must be also thanked for their generosity in having this marker put up. And I'm hoping there are some of their representatives here today. So, again, I thank all these people, and I'm so glad to see you all here again, and I hope we can visit again. Thank you.
Yay, Judy. Good job. Yeah.
Where's my friend Joe Meek? Is he here?
John.
John. There he is. I met him here, and he reminded me his demeanor and everything. Some of the old fur trappers.
Yeah.
Some of the old cowboys I used to know and grew up with in Eastern Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm an Oregon Nez Perce. The people that were here before me had their ties to the Wallowas and to the Bitterroots. The last remaining direct descendant that the Meek family has in Idaho, I believe he's about 86. I asked him, I said, would you want to come down? And he said, oh, no, so I got to work. He still works full time. He transports patients back and forth to dialysis and to their cancer treatments. So he plays a very important role. He drives from Kamiah to Lewiston back and forth every day. So those of you who are getting up there, beyond my age, he's my elder, I have to admire him for staying with it. So, but he is a direct descendant himself of Thunder Eyes, Pilu and Mud, and he was the, apparently Thunder Eyes was the one who gave the Virginia Meek and her sisters away. Then Eliza came on later. Her Nez Perce name was Bear Claws, and she was given away by old Joseph to a chach in a traditional ceremony, and she was the younger sister of Joseph and Olachat, who in 1877 were forced to vacate the Wallowa lands and go across, but they entered into war trying to preserve their families and their way of life. We know that the Nez Perce ladies that were here, including a woman from the Shoshone Bannock that was here, very homesick for the mountains, for the hot weather, the sun. But where we come from, where they came from, they had 4 distinct seasons. And so each one had a certain significant role to play in our way of life. In Oregon vernacular, it's called Tamalwit. Idaho is Tomwit. So the circle of life that dictates what we did as Nemitu, Nez Perce people, was started by the fish runs. And that signified what you did each year upon your planting seasons, your gathering seasons, your burning seasons. Those things that you did in order to conduct your lives in the way the Creator intended for you to do. So I laud the Nez Perce women that were here, because they were something in Oregon history that is not written. And it's like with our recovery of our lamprey and so forth, our elders would say, shame on you. You forget things. You forget those things that give us life, that brought us the ability of having trade, how we survived. They brought those concepts, the things they did, when they were left with the taking care of the children and the land, the religion and the government. Today we are trying to preserve the integrity of our Methodist Church that is a part of our culture. They split from the Methodist organization and went under the tribe, and the tribe is going to purchase the land and become, the church will become a united, independent Methodist church controlled by the Nez Perce Tribe. And so all that support and the things that we did, we're trying to do the best that we can with what's happened there, supporting the people who are part of that. We have members of the congregation that are part of the Circle of Elders. They're in their 80s, late 80s, and they're working every day trying to control the outcome of the church. And I would imagine that those things happened here. They had a church that was built with the belfry but no bell. They couldn't afford it. We have a church with a bell that doesn't ring anymore. For funerals, for get-togethers, for congregations to be noticed that there's going to be a service. All the music of the bells as they did that no longer echoes in the valley. So here, what we have intended to do, is to memorialize the attempts of these people to look out for their families, including their husbands who were still off doing things, whatever they did as mountain men and as men do, leaving their wives at home. When my cousin Chuck and I were here and we blessed the area, whatever the ground penetrating radar and so forth failed to bring up, Chuck saw the graves instantly. He knew where they were at. We could read the land. We've done this many, 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 many times when we've gone out to archaeological digs and we've located it where the machines couldn't. We did it by human intuition, eyes, feelings, prayers. Things would come to us, whether it be in our dreams, whether it be our sequences of visions. So we got used to using our own internal radar. So he saw them. He saw, yeah, there's graves right there. There's 3 in a row. There's several more at the foot. But I see where corporate America again has reached its tentacles across the land and done things that without asking. I know how it is. I spent years in California working for industry. Sidewalk to sidewalk. They take what they can to put it together. They cover memories. They cover cultures, whether it be from society itself or tribal or both. We weren't really totally aware of what happened here until we read what Ms. Goldmann, Jenny Mapes, and others had put together. We looked at it and we read about it, because we do have descendants that are living on the reservation or close to it. Meek family. In fact, I'm on the Nez Perce Athletic Commission. I'm still active yet. I have to work all the time. We had a fighter, MMA fighter. Little guy, he kind of looked like Joe Meek, or John. He come out there and he knocks out his opponent, first round. Come on, be darn, that guy is a rangy little fighter. And he was neat. His name was Hiram Meek. So get that. So they're still active on the reservation. They come in and out of Lapway, go to the clinic. They come down and they take advantage of some of the services. And so now we have one that's an acknowledged fighter. And so I thought that was pretty. I talked to the guys about that and told them what was happening here. So there's not much awareness. We're trying to talk more about that with our younger people so that they're aware and they can come down and see this. And so long as we have our historians that are still alive and kicking and working, we would like them to eventually help our young people out so that they know that they have a piece of history that needs to be preserved by our people, but also hopefully by the Oregon people, that it becomes a part of the school history. How did these women folk survive being so homesick with their own religion, then adopting the religion that would listen to them, allow them to do things in their language, or to think in their language, to interpret those words that came out of that book that they saw, that they sought those words out of that book. People have to live by that every day. That's what we do. Why do they only take one day to worship when we do this every day? That was in the Nimipu way. That was the way that we conducted ourselves, which is why we thought that we would be able to hear the ministers talk about this on an everyday, and that people lived by that book. We were wrong. But still is a belief among some of our people that those things will come around, come true. So we have a mix of emotions and considerations about what happened here. The Nimipu women, the Nez Perce women that were here, I guess you'd say they carved a niche in Oregon history. They were able to identify those things that they did on behalf of their husbands, on behalf of the people who lived here as their neighbors. The government that was structured, that they followed those premises of that operation, and you had to wonder, they probably had to be able to be conversant in the English language in order to perpetuate those things that they did with their farming, the ranching, the farm and ranching wives, mothers, eventually grandmothers, but also as contributors to the government that everybody who tried to set up. Those were the things we looked for, that say these are the kind of people that we are, and we're proud to say that they're descendants of our people. Proud to say that all the descendants still memorialize those folks that were here beforehand. There are days when we look at the things that the people did to preserve life. The children that were buried here, the Meek children, were they baptized? Were they in fact followers of their mother's religion? Did they follow that way? The blessings upon them. We gave blessings, but we wondered, were there others that were before us? We think not. They were living basically in an alien land and landscape, but they survived. And they brought forth all the descendants that are here. That, to me, is how they got success. All of you share in that. You share in those thoughts and those memories, and you also share in the protection of that. That is your history, that's my history, that's our history. Never deny it. Corporate America has to look at these things and consider how can they blend that into what they're doing. How can they be a part of what they've done here with the plaques and so forth, I think are very, very laudable. And something that I would hope that is a message to other areas. But getting people out is the biggest thing. Contributions to be made. If you look at this in a Nimipu way, you identify an anniversary period. You do this every year. You try to come forth and come together. You try to preserve the integrity of your family. What Virginia Meek and her sisters, her cousins, what they did. What was it they preserved? They were homesick, longing for their homelands in the high mountains, but by the same token, they were here and their children are here. Their children really know where they came from. So it's up to you. We'll help best we can. But I'd like to thank the city of Hillsboro for stepping out and being a part of this. Very rare that you get that type of opportunity. We've done it in Northeast Oregon in our Nez Perce homeland, where the city of Joseph and Enterprise and Wallowa has stepped forward to help us. We've regained the foothold in there. We've come home. We do a lot of different things, and so I think the industry that was shown by Virginia Meek as a leader, the other lady, that industry that they indicated shows is the same thing we've done in our homeland. So it's not unusual to me, and I looked at it, I said, oh, my mother did that. She ran the ranch, and she cooked for the ranch crew. She did everything. I watched part of the movie Yellowstone. Old man Dutton was like my mother. That's how she was. So anyway, she ran a tight ship. So that basically was the way things I would hope happened here. So with that, on this day, again, as I said earlier, the blessings are upon the Meek family for holding this, being here. I know you're cold, you probably want to have some coffee, warm up. So I'll close that off and say, thank you all. Thank you.
Woo! Beautiful.
Known Cy for many, many years when we were both young children.
Yeah.
My name is Tualatin Plains. I'm a descendant of the old Joseph band of Nez Perce. One of his wives was my elder. One of his 4 wives was my elder. I come here as Cayuse. I also come here as Nez Perce Nimipu. My grandfather, Richard Half Moon, was the chairman of the Nez Perce Tribe for many, many years. Old Half Moon was part of the Red Heart band that was held prisoner over here in Vancouver during the 1877 war. But I come as Cayuse. I wear my Cayuse regalia. Part of our regalia is to wear a 10-inch knife. I have my 10-inch knife on today because I'm Cayuse today. I'm Cayuse because I want to also remind you of the 5 Cayuses that were hung at Oregon City because of the Cayuse belief that the missionaries were bringing dirty blankets to us and killing us with the disease. So I come to you as Cayuse because we had to take care of those people who were killing us with disease. The 5 Cayuse who were hung were 5 innocent men who were taking the place of the people who were at the Whitman mission. So I come to you as Cayuse to honor those Cayuse who had to help them stand up for us to keep our people safe. My great-grandmother Julia White Wolf tells the story of the mission and what was happening there and how our Indian people were being treated, how we were being hit and beat. Our children are being made to work very hard. So I come to you as Cayuse because we are still strong. I come to you as a Cayuse woman because I still carry my knife. My job is to protect my family, my people, and I come to you as a descendant of old Joseph and the people that had to run. My elder, Tualatin Plains, and her son, Him or White Wolf, were part of the over 300 people who were running through Idaho and Montana. We made it to within miles of the Canadian border. I ask you to think of that kind of history as well, so that how the strength of the Indian people still runs in our blood. We're survivors. We are people who survived the disease. We are people who survived the wars. We were women who were taking care of our elderly as we were taking them with us on the run to Canada. Some of us made it to Canada, and we still have elders that live there. So I asked you to think not only of the impact the missionaries have had on our religions, because we couldn't practice our religion for many, many years. Please think about the survivorship that we as Indian women are still here surviving, and I still carry my 10-inch knife because my job is to protect my family and my people, and to help the men as they go about their work as well. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.
Woo! Beautiful.